Hello, and welcome to our fourth talk in our series on leadership in the church. In this talk, I am going to consider the New Testament passages that discuss elders. What is an elder, and what should we look for in an elder? In the New Testament, there are two words that apply to this position of leadership in the church: presbyteros, which means literally elder, and episkopos, which means overseer. In the New Testament, there does not seem to be a distinction made between an elder and an overseer, although a distinction emerged very soon after the New Testament was written, such that many churches had a single overseer or bishop who presided over a number of elders. That was the case in the early 2nd century, but it doesn't look like it was the case in the 1st century. Elders are mentioned more often than deacons in the New Testament, but still not that often. Today I will go through the passages that really shed light on what the eldership is or is supposed to be. The first is 1 Timothy 3, 1 through 7. The saying is sure: whoever aspires to the office of bishop desires a noble task. Now a bishop must be above reproach, married only once, temperate, sensible, respectable, hospitable, an apt teacher, not a drunkard, not violent but gentle, not quarrelsome, and not a lover of money. He must manage his own household well, keeping his children submissive and respectful in every way, for if someone does not know how to manage his own household, how can he take care of God's church? He must not be a recent convert, or he may be puffed up with conceit and fall into the condemnation of the devil. Moreover, he must be well thought of by outsiders, so that he may not fall into disgrace and the snare of the devil. In this particular translation, the word episkopos is translated as bishop rather than overseer. 1 Timothy, which I just read, also goes on to say in 5:17 through 19, "Let the elders who rule well be considered worthy of a double honor, especially those who labor in preaching and teaching. For the Scripture says, 'You shall not muzzle an ox while it is treading out the grain,' and 'the laborer deserves to be paid.' Never accept any accusation against an elder except on the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses." The picture here is, in many respects, similar to what was said of deacons. There are more responsibilities added, notably teaching, but the idea is that the church should have leaders that are above reproach and incorruptible. Leaders should be trustworthy with money and in the company of members of the opposite sex. They should be upstanding members of the community. They should demonstrate competent management in other areas of their lives. They should not be the sort of people who provoke unnecessary conflicts through their insensitivity. Although these passages seem to assume that elders will be male, it nowhere requires that they are male. Nor does the passage forbid female elders. Regarding marriage, the passage says that the elder must be the husband of one wife, and this should probably be read in a similar way to the parallel passage about deacons, which I discussed in the previous talk. As I mentioned before, there were some who were going around saying that Christians, and especially Christian leaders, could not be married. Consistently, New Testament writers respond to these ideas by affirming that marriage is acceptable and good. Either way, the sense of this passage in 1 Timothy could be that 1. An elder must be married rather than unmarried, or 2. The elder must be married to one woman rather than more than one, or 3. An elder must be married only one time in the course of his life. In my view, 2, which is that the elder should be married to one woman as opposed to more than one, that seems to be most likely what he's getting after, given the structure of the sentence and the historical context. So the force of the sentence seems to be that the elder should not have more than one woman, literally woman, which can mean either that he should not have multiple wives, but perhaps also that he should not have women on the side. Let's now turn to Titus 1, 5 through 9, which provides a similar list of qualities. I left you behind in Crete for this reason, so that you should put in order what remained to be done, and should appoint elders in every town as I directed you. Someone who is blameless, married only once, whose children are believers, not accused of debauchery, and not rebellious. For an overseer, as God's steward, must be blameless. He must not be arrogant or quick-tempered, or addicted to wine, or violent, or greedy for gain. But he must be hospitable, a lover of goodness, prudent, upright, devout, and self-controlled. He must have a firm grasp of the word that is trustworthy, in accordance with the teaching, so that he may be able to preach, both to preach with sound doctrine and to refute those who contradict it. This passage is, I think, pretty straightforward based on what I've said before. Here is added only that the elders' children should be believers, and the logic is similar to what was said earlier. If an elder is entrusted with teaching the church, then this person ought to have demonstrated an ability to teach and lead at home. So again, we are looking for a person with a record of good management and leadership. The last passage that concerns elders is 1 Peter 5, 1 through 5. Now as an elder myself and a witness of the sufferings of Christ, as well as one who shares in the glory to be revealed, I exhort the elders among you to tend the flock of God that is in your charge, exercising oversight, not under compulsion, but willingly, as God would have you do it, not for sordid gain, but eagerly. Do not lord it over those in your charge, but be examples to the flock. And when the chief shepherd appears, you will win the crown of glory that never fades away. In the same way, you who are younger must accept the authority of the elders. And all of you must clothe yourselves with humility in your dealings with one another. Now, this passage does not list characteristics of a good elder, but it really assumes many of those listed in the passages above. Elders ought to be exemplars of good behavior. They ought to lead through the example of a life well lived, rather than through coercion. Elders lead by example, not by force. And they should be eager to lead for the sake of others and not to line their own pockets. Now, what emerges from this? To my mind, the churches of Christ have often made the mistake of focusing too much on these passages as lists of qualifications, rather than as descriptions of the qualities of a good leader. And this has been to our detriment, because in many of our churches we have elevated men who had the qualifications as we have interpreted them, but lacked the qualities. Meanwhile, there are persons who have the qualities, but lack the qualifications, persons who are women or divorced, whom members follow, who are treated with respect, and who are elders in all but title. I think Paul and the apostles would be perplexed by this. They were providing advice about what to look for in a leader. What are the signs of a good leader? They aren't providing legally binding absolutes. The point is to have leaders who are trusted, who can be trusted, and who have a record of trustworthiness when given responsibility. We've obsessed so much about the letter of these passages that we have missed their spirit. Now, to put the issue a bit more clearly, I think the New Testament compels us to elevate to leadership persons of good character, and I can find no scriptural reasons to exclude persons of good character who happen to be women or divorced. In the New Testament, the assumption is that elders will be male, but that is also the case for the second article of the Constitution, which assumes that the President of the United States will be male. That is merely an assumption, and there's nothing legally binding about it. There would be nothing unconstitutional about having a woman president. And something similar is true with the role of elder. I can find nothing that forbids it, and I can find many women who would perform extremely well in that position. Something similar is true for those who have been divorced. Now, perhaps I am wrong in this, and if I am, I welcome your correction. Of course, it is one thing to say that something is permissible and good, and another thing to do it. I think it is permissible and would be good to allow women or divorced persons to be elders if they have the requisite qualities of leadership. But I should add, it is not my decision to have or not to have women or divorced persons as elders. I cannot force an elder upon you, and even if I could, I would not. The decision to have such persons in these roles is one that we will have to make together. Because, after all, if you're going to put someone forward as a leader, it's up to the community to follow them. We're going to have to talk about this together, and we're going to have to make these sorts of decisions on the basis of a common understanding. What I'm presenting here is only a first word on this. The next word, I hope, will be yours.